Imagine loving someone so completely that when they die, you stop living too. Not in the dramatic, poetic way people say it at funerals. In the real way. The way you wake up at 3 a.m. still reaching for a warmth that isn't there. The way you keep their perfume bottle on the nightstand even after the scent is gone, just the ghost of it. The way you learn to function in a world that has absolutely no idea your entire reason for breathing was buried on a Tuesday in the rain. Kang Seo-jun didn't just lose the woman he loved. He lost the version of himself that knew how to be soft. For 5 years, he was a ghost in a tailored suit, running one of Seoul's most feared underground empires with cold precision and dead eyes. His men whispered that the boss had no heart. That whatever warmth once lived in him had been lowered into the ground with her. They were right. Until the night a Navy officer walked into his restricted gala, stood at the center of his marble floor, looked him dead in the eyes, and saluted. Not in mockery. Not in fear. With the slow, deliberate confidence of a woman who knew exactly who she was, and had absolutely no idea who he was. And in that single frozen moment, with 200 of Seoul's most dangerous people watching, Kang Seo-jun felt something crack open in his chest that he had spent 5 years cementing shut. Because she had her smile. She had her voice. She had her cheekbones, her laugh lines, her way of tilting her chin up like the whole world owed her an apology. But she was not her. She was something entirely, terrifyingly new. And she was about to turn his entire empire upside down, in uniform, barefoot, laughing, and completely, catastrophically unafraid of him. This is their story. Before we begin, my mum said this video cannot reach 10,000 views and 1,000 subscribers. Let's prove her wrong. Smash that like button, subscribe right now, and drop in the comments where you are watching from. Now let's get into this story. The day Zuri Asonti decided to join the Navy, her grandmother threw a sandal at her head. Not metaphorically. An actual leather sandal, worn, brown, and launched with the accuracy of a woman who had raised 6 children and had absolutely no patience for nonsense. Navy. Grandma Abina repeated, switching from Chi to English the way she always did when she wanted to be extra dramatic. You want to go and live on water? You, who cried when rain touched your hair at age 12. I was 11, Zuri corrected, ducking behind the kitchen door. And it was a very expensive press-out. Zuri Amma. Grandma, I already submitted the application. Another sandal. She was out of left feet now. Zuri Asonti was 22 years old, 5'7", the color of dark honey in the afternoon sun, and in possession of a laugh so loud it once set off a car alarm in Osu. She had her late mother's wide, expressive eyes, her father's stubbornness encoded somewhere deep in her DNA, and a mouth that had been getting her into trouble since she learned to speak full sentences at age 2. She was not afraid of much. She was, however, completely unprepared for what the next 6 years would do to her. The Navy took the girl with the loud laugh and the expensive hair and turned her into something forged. Something precise. She learned discipline in ways that stripped the softness off her edges, then quietly gave it back in places she didn't expect. She learned to be still in storms. She learned to lead. She learned that strength wasn't the absence of feeling, it was moving through every single feeling without letting it stop you. By the time Lieutenant Zuri Asonti boarded a flight to Seoul for the joint maritime summit between the Ghanaian and South Korean naval commands, she was 28 years old, decorated, and sharper than anything she'd ever been. She was also completely, absolutely, blissfully unaware that she bore an almost supernatural resemblance to a dead woman. A dead woman who had once owned the heart of the most dangerous man in South Korea. Seoul greeted her with rain. Of course it did. Great, Zuri muttered under her breath, standing outside Incheon Airport in full dress uniform while her colleague, Lieutenant Commander Borateng, fumbled with a collapsed umbrella. Grandma was right. Water hates me. You're in the Navy, Borateng said flatly. Water is your entire career. Water in the ocean is professional. This, she gestured at the thin Seoul drizzle, is personal. Borateng gave her the look he always gave her. The how did you become an officer look. She'd catalogued it over 3 years of working together and found it deeply charming every single time. Their black government car pulled up. Zuri folded herself inside, smoothed her uniform, and watched Seoul blur past the Rain Street windows with the particular attention of someone storing images. She did that. She always did that. Filed away details like a living camera. The neon signs bleeding color into wet pavement. The precision of the infrastructure. The way the city felt layered, like it had 100 stories happening underneath the visible one. She liked it immediately. She didn't know yet that the city was about to like her back in the most catastrophic way possible. The summit's welcome gala was that same evening, faster than she preferred, slower than Boateng wanted. "We're here to represent Ghana's Naval Command," he reminded her in the elevator up to the event hall. "Professionally. With dignity. Obviously. No unnecessary commentary. When have I ever?" He silenced her with a look. Fine. She would be the picture of professional dignity. She squared her shoulders, checked her uniform in the elevator's mirrored walls, gold buttons gleaming, cap perfectly leveled, the single ribbon of her commendation sitting just right above her breast pocket, and exhaled. She looked good. She felt sharp. She was completely ready. The doors opened. The gala was massive, a cathedral of glass and warm light, filled with the kind of wealth that didn't shout, it hummed. Diplomats, naval brass, government officials, and people Zuri couldn't quite categorize. Too well dressed for bureaucracy, too watchful for leisure. She and Boateng were announced, walked in, accepted champagne, and she was doing beautifully, professionally, with full dignity. Until she felt it. The weight of a stare. Not a passing glance. Not polite acknowledgement. A stare. Dense and still, like pressure dropping before thunder. She turned. Across the marble floor, standing apart from every cluster of people with the quiet authority of a man who had never once needed a crowd to feel powerful, was the most heartbreakingly beautiful human being Zuri had ever seen in her life. Tall. Korean. Sharp-jawed. Dark suit. Eyes like the deep end of still water. Staring at her. Not with desire. Not with recognition. With the specific devastation of a man watching something impossible happen in real time. Zuri did what any decorated, professional naval officer would do. She held his gaze. She straightened her spine. And she saluted him. The room went quiet. His name was Kang Seo-jun. She wouldn't learn that for another 4 minutes. She would spend the rest of her life being absolutely unreasonably glad she saluted him first. Seo-jun had not wanted to come tonight. He never wanted to come to these things. The galas, the summits, the carefully curated evenings where powerful people performed normalcy at each other across gleaming tables. He attended because his position required a face. Because the legitimate scaffolding of his empire needed to be seen at these events. Because his right hand, Im Chan-hyuk, had physically blocked the exit of his home office and said, with the specific exhaustion of a man who had held this operation together by sheer force of will for 5 years, "Boss. You are going. Get dressed." He'd gotten dressed. He stood at the edge of the gala's east wing with a glass of whiskey he had no intention of drinking, watching the room with the automatic threat assessment that never fully turned off when the elevator doors opened. The Ghanaian naval delegation entered. He clocked them professionally. 2 officers. The man first, senior rank, comfortable in his skin, the easy posture of someone accustomed to these events. Then the woman. And the glass nearly left his hand. She was laughing at something her colleague said, not a polite social laugh, a real one, sudden and unguarded, head tilting back just slightly, her whole face rearranging itself in the specific way that, no. His brain performed the rational override it had learned to perform. The one that said, you see her everywhere. In crowds. In peripheral vision. In the particular angle of light on a Tuesday afternoon. It is never her. It has never been her. But his feet had already moved. 3 steps before he caught himself. Chan-hyuk materialized at his elbow with the supernatural timing of a man who was paid specifically to prevent disasters. Boss. I see her. You see someone who looks like her. Again. Chan-hyuk's voice was carefully, professionally gentle. He had been doing this for 5 years. Talking Seo-jun back from the ledge of his own grief with the patience of a saint. It's not. The woman turned. Both men went silent. Even Chan-hyuk, who had seen everything, survived everything, who had built his composure out of reinforced concrete, exhaled through his nose and said quietly, oh. Because it wasn't the face that stopped time. It was the way she held it. The chin. The direct, no permission required eye contact. The absolute stillness of someone completely comfortable in their own presence. She looked at Seo-jun from across a crowded room full of important, watchful people, and she did not look away. And then, slowly, with the deliberate ceremony of someone who was absolutely not mocking him but also absolutely not afraid of him, she straightened, and saluted. Seo-jun heard the room change. Not loud. Just a shift, The slight intake of collective breath, the pause in 3 separate conversations. Because people in this room knew who he was. Not the naval diplomacy part. The other part. And watching a woman in uniform salute Kang Seo-jun at his own gala, with her chin up and her eyes direct and her expression saying I have absolutely no idea who you are but you were staring and I was raised to respond with class. It was possibly the most extraordinary thing any of them had seen in years. Seo-jun set down his untouched whiskey. He crossed the room. She didn't step back. He registered that immediately, filed it somewhere significant. Every person in that room, regardless of how composed they appeared, had a physical response when he moved toward them. A micro-adjustment. A subtle contraction. This woman watched him come and stood there like she was rooted. He stopped 2 feet from her. Closer than protocol. She noticed. Her eyes flicked down once, measured the distance, flicked back up. A small adjustment in her expression that wasn't quite a smile. Lieutenant. His English was precise, lightly accented. That salute was either incredibly brave or completely uninformed. Bit of both, if I'm honest, she said. Her voice hit him like a physical thing. Similar register to, stop. You don't know who I am, he said. I know you were staring at me for approximately 2 full minutes before I turned around, she said pleasantly. In my experience, that warrants acknowledgement. Chan-hyuk, 2 steps behind Seo-jun, made a sound that he quickly converted into a cough. Seo-jun looked at her. She looked back. Kang Seo-jun, he said. Lieutenant Zuri Asante. She tilted her head. Ghanaian Naval Command. And I'm guessing from the way half this room is watching us right now, you're not actually on the diplomatic guest list. My name is on the donor wall of this building. Ah. She glanced toward the wall in question, then back. A building man. Impressive. You're not frightened. Of buildings? No. Of me. She considered him for a moment, genuinely, with the particular attention of someone actually looking. Not the performance of boldness. Just actual, undisguised assessment. Should I be? She asked. And Kang Seo-jun, who had not smiled with his full face in 5 years, felt the corners of his mouth move. Just barely. Just enough. Her name was Zuri. It meant beautiful in Kiswahili. He learned this 3 minutes later when Chan-hyuk, with trembling efficiency, pulled the summit's guest manifest on his phone and put it in Seo-jun's hand. Lieutenant Zuri Ama Asante. Ghanaian Naval Command. Age 28. Decorated. Maritime Operations Specialist. He looked at the small official photo. His chest did something complicated. Boss, Chan-hyuk said quietly. She's here for 6 days. 6 days. Seo-jun looked across the room to where Zuri Asante was now absolutely roasting her colleague about something, gesturing with her champagne glass and laughing again with that completely uncontrolled laugh that turned heads in a 3-meter radius. 6 days. Clear my schedule, Seo-jun said. Chan-hyuk closed his eyes briefly. Of course you said that. She was not Yuna. He knew that. He was not delusional. He was not chasing a ghost. But she carried something in the architecture of her, some quality of aliveness that he had not encountered in 5 years. Something that made the part of him that had been sitting in the dark stand up and walk toward the window. He did not know her. He intended to fix that. Immediately. The gala ended at 11. Zuri's government-assigned hotel was 20 minutes from the venue. She knew this because she had memorized the route, because she always memorized routes, because the Navy had trained the improvisation out of her logistics and the improvisation into everything else. She did not expect a black car to be waiting at the venue's side exit with a uniformed driver holding a card with her name on it. She stopped. Borateng stopped beside her. They both looked at the card. That's your name, Borateng said. Yes. That's not our car. Also yes. Asante. I'll handle it. She took the card, turned it over. On the back, in clean handwriting. The city is better from the Han River at midnight. KS. Borateng read it over her shoulder. Inhaled slowly. Absolutely not. Absolutely maybe. His not, Zuri. Do you know who that man is? I spent the last 20 minutes asking questions. He is not a diplomat. He is not a donor. He is a building man, she said. Zuri. She looked at the card. She looked at the car. She thought about the way Kang Seo-jun had looked at her, Not like prey, not like a conquest. Like something he was trying desperately to understand. She thought about how she had 6 days in Seoul and had already done 3 hours of professional gala standing and deserved something interesting. Tell the summit coordinator I turned in early, she told Boateng. I have my phone. I have my training. And I'm a grown woman who can. If you die, I'm not writing the report. Deeply supportive. Thank you. She got in the car. The Han River at midnight was exactly what the card promised. Seo-jun was already there, jacket off, sleeves rolled, leaning against the railing with the skyline behind him like someone had composed the shot on purpose. He turned when she approached, and she watched his expression do something quick and private before settling. You came, he said. You sent a car. Many people would have ignored it. Many people are boring. She stopped beside him at the railing, looking out at the river. The city lights fractured on the water. It was genuinely, embarrassingly beautiful. Okay. You were right. Better at midnight. I usually am. She looked at him sideways. That's a very confident thing to say to someone you met 2 hours ago. I'm a confident person. Or a man who hasn't been told no recently enough. The corner of his mouth. That same movement from the gala. Not quite a smile. Almost. Zuri, he said. Like he was testing the weight of it. Seo-jun, she returned. Equal weight. They stood in silence for a moment that was somehow not uncomfortable. The water moved. The city hummed. She could feel him looking at her profile with that same focused intensity from the gala, and she let him, because she was looking at the river and thinking about the fact that something in the air between them felt like standing near something electrical. You were staring at me, she said finally. At the gala. Before I turned around. What did you see? A pause. Someone I thought I recognized, he said carefully. But you didn't. No. Another pause. Quieter. I don't know you at all. And yet, midnight. Han River. And yet. She turned to look at him fully. He was closer than she'd registered. He had the kind of face that got more specifically, dangerously beautiful the longer you looked at it, like detail kept revealing itself. The jaw. The dark eyes that held something deep and still and faintly ruined. What happened to you? She asked. It wasn't a soft question. She didn't do soft questions. But it wasn't cruel either. It was the question of someone who looked at people and actually saw them. He went very still. That, he said, is not a first conversation question. Maybe I'm not a first conversation kind of person. Maybe I need a minute. Take 2. She turned back to the river. I'm not going anywhere. You sent a very nice car. And this time, quietly, in the dark, where no one who feared him could see, Kang Seo-jun laughed. It was rusty. Unpracticed. Like a door opening on hinges that hadn't moved in years. Zuri Asante heard it and filed it somewhere she would not examine until much later. Much, much later. They talked until 2 a.m. Not about serious things. About small things, which were somehow more intimate. He asked about Ghana. She described Accra with her hands, literally, with her hands, gesturing shapes in the air, the fish stalls and the traffic and the colors of the cloth market and the way her grandmother's compound smelled in the morning. He listened with the absolute attention of someone who had forgotten how to want things and was suddenly, helplessly wanting. She asked about Seoul. He answered in layers, the official layer first, then the real one. The city he knew versus the city he'd built. She noticed the layers. Didn't push. Filed them. At 2 a.m. she said, I have a 7 a.m. briefing. I'll have the car bring you back. I can call. Zuri. Quiet. Direct. Let me. She looked at him. He looked back. Fine, she said. But tomorrow I'm paying for dinner. You don't know the city. I'll find somewhere. There's a place I know. I said I'm paying. He tilted his head. You're very stubborn. Naval officer, she said, like that explained everything. It did. She found the restaurant herself. A small, private jollof rice-adjacent Korean fusion place in Itaewon that had exactly 12 tables and a chef who had lived in Accra for 3 years in the 90s. She made the reservation herself, confirmed it herself, and sent Seo-jun a message through the contact number his driver had quietly passed her on a business card. 7 p.m. Itaewon. I found a place. Dress like a human, not a building. She put her phone down. It buzzed 10 seconds later. What does that mean? She grinned. No suit. Casual. Can you do casual? 30 seconds. I own casual clothes. Do you actually wear them though? A full minute this time. 7 p.m. She took that as a no and found it completely charming. He arrived in a black turtleneck and dark trousers, and Zuri, who had been fully prepared to tease him, took one look and decided that was actually aggressively unfair of him. You look, she started. Human, he offered. I was going to say expensive. That's the same thing, in my case. She laughed. He watched it happen, the way her whole face committed, and that crack in his chest from the gala widened a fraction. Saturday. The food came in courses, the chef personally explained each dish, delighted to speak with someone who knew the references, and Zuri held the entire conversation in a delightful hybrid of English and the few chief phrases the man had retained. Seo-jun watched her with the particular attention of someone cataloguing something precious. You're staring again, she said, without looking up from her food. Occupational habit. Your occupation involves staring at people. Among other things. She looked up. Tell me about your other things. And there it was, the question that had been between them since the river. The real one. He set down his chopsticks. Looked at her with those still, deep eyes. What do you want to know? Everything you'll actually tell me. She tilted her head. Not what you'd tell a diplomat or a business partner or someone you're managing. What you'd actually say. He was quiet long enough that she thought he might not answer. Then, I run things that the law would prefer I didn't. Organized. Very. Violent. When necessary. His eyes stayed on hers. Does that change something? She considered him. Genuinely. The way she always actually considered things instead of reacting. It tells me who you are. It doesn't tell me who you're trying to be. Something moved through his expression. Quickly. Gone. Those might be the same thing. They might, she agreed. Or they might not. I haven't decided yet. You're not frightened, he said again. The same words from the gala. But different now, not observation. Almost wonder. I've been in active maritime situations with armed hostiles, she said flatly. I have been shot at, Seo-jun. I'm not going to be frightened of a man who is currently using his chopsticks incorrectly. I am not. You're holding them too high. I'm Korean. And yet. He looked at his chopsticks. She watched him adjust them with the expression of a man who had not been corrected on anything in several years and was experiencing complex feelings about it. She took a bite of her food and smiled into it. It was over dessert that she asked the question that changed everything. Not on purpose. She was relaxed, warm from the food and the conversation, in that specific pleasant state where the guard comes down not from carelessness but from comfort. You said you thought you recognized me, she said. At the gala. He went still. The specific stillness she was learning to recognize, the one that meant something real, was close. Yes. Who did you think I was? The pause was long enough to become a presence at the table. Her name was Yuna, he said. 2 words. But the weight of them sat down between them like a third person. Was, Zuri said quietly. She died 5 years ago. Zuri set down her spoon. She didn't fill the silence with performance. No "oh I'm so sorry" at full volume, no reaching across the table. Just, space. Room. The recognition that some things needed air. What was she like? She asked. He looked at her. You don't have to, she said. She was. He stopped. Started again. She was warm. Impractical. She laughed too loudly in quiet places. She argued with strangers about directions even when she was wrong. She used to steal the last bite of everything I ordered and act completely unbothered about it. A pause. She made every room feel inhabited. Zuri was quiet for a moment. Then, carefully, and I look like her. Yes. That's why you crossed the room. Yes. His voice was even. And then you opened your mouth and you were entirely, completely someone else. Something shifted in his face. I didn't expect that. Which part? To be relieved, he said. Quiet. Honest. I have spent 5 years looking for her everywhere. And then someone who looks like her walked into a room and was so completely not her that I felt." He stopped. "Like you could breathe," she offered gently. He looked at her for a long moment. "Yes," he said. "Exactly that." Zuri Asante picked her spoon back up and took the last bite of his dessert, completely unbothered about it. He stared at the empty bowl, looked up at her. "You did that on purpose," he said. "I have absolutely no idea what you mean," she said, and smiled. She took him to a pojangmaka, a street food tent. Plastic stools, orange top, fluorescent light, $4 fish cake and oding soup from a woman who had apparently been running the same stall for 30 years. Seo-jun had not been to a pojangmaka in 11 years. He arrived in what was, by his standards, extremely casual, dark jeans, grey shirt, and exactly one security detail hanging back 20 meters who Zuri had clocked within 30 seconds of their arrival. "You have a shadow," she said, dunking fish cake in the broth. "I have a professional concern." "His name?" "Jay." She looked over her shoulder. Jay, who was attempting to look like an ordinary person on a sidewalk and managing about a 60% success rate, gave a small, frozen nod. Zuri waved. Jay blinked. Looked at Seo-jun. Seo-jun looked at the soup. "Your soldiers are scared of you," she observed. "They're not soldiers. Whatever you call them." She handed him a skewer. "They flinch when you move. That's effective leadership. That's fear. Different thing." She picked up her own skewer. "Do they respect you or do they just not want to find out what happens if they don't?" Seo-jun looked at her. "You ask very specific questions," he said. "I lead people," she said simply. "I care about the difference." He was quiet for a moment, eating, thinking, the street noise moving around them like water. A couple walked past. A group of teenagers. The ordinary architecture of a city at night. "Both," he said finally. "At different times." She nodded. Didn't judge it. "And which do you prefer?" A pause. "The respect," he said quietly. "If I'm honest." "Then give them more to respect," she said, and ate another fish cake with complete serenity. He watched her. She was doing it again, the thing where she said something simple and direct that landed in him like a stone dropped in still water. Circles moving outward from the point of impact, long after the stone had settled. No one talked to him like this. No one had talked to him like this since. He stopped the thought. "Tell me about the Navy," he said. "Redirect. Control. Why did you join?" She smiled, the specific smile of someone who had a story. "My grandmother threw both of her sandals at me." "That's a reason to leave," he said. "That's a reason to go do the thing she threw the sandals about," she corrected. "If Grandma Rabina is mobilizing footwear, you know you've chosen correctly." He found himself smiling again. That same rusty, unpracticed movement. It felt incrementally less foreign each time. "She sounds formidable," he said. "She is 81, 5'2", and once made a government official cry at a community meeting." Zuri paused for effect. With her words. He just walked out and got in his car and cried. What did she say to him? No one is entirely sure. The chi was too fast. She grinned. She considers that her greatest achievement. Above all 6 children. Seo-jun laughed. Real this time. Fuller. It surprised him. The way it came out without permission, warm and sudden. He felt Jay, 20 meters away, actually turned to look. Probably experiencing something like shock. Zuri looked at him with bright eyes. There he is, she said softly. Who? The actual person. She said it without any sharpness. Just warmth, matter of fact, the way she said everything. Behind the building man. He looked at her across the pojangmaka table, plastic stool, orange light, fish cake broth between them, and felt something settle that had been in motion for 5 years. Not resolution. Not healing. Not the specific gravity of grief finally releasing. Something gentler than all of those. The beginning of wanting to be known. They walked afterward. No destination. Just the city, the night, his security detail maintaining its discreet 20-meter orbit. She walked the way she did everything, full presence, head slightly up, absorbing the city through her skin. At a crosswalk she said, without preamble, do people try to use you? Always. Does it bother you? It used to. He considered the question. Now I expect it. That's sad. That's realistic. Those aren't opposites, she said. A thing can be both realistic and sad. You don't have to pick. The light changed. They crossed. You don't try to use me, he said. Observation. Almost puzzlement. I have a salary, she said dryly. That's not. I know. Her voice softened slightly. I don't want anything from you, Seo-jun. I have 4 more days in Seoul and I find you genuinely interesting and I make very efficient use of limited time. She looked at him sideways. Is that a problem? 4 days. The number moved through him like a cold current. No, he said. But his jaw had tightened. She saw it. Said nothing. Filed it. He walked her to the hotel lobby at midnight. She turned at the door. They were standing close. The evening had made this normal, somehow. The erosion of careful distance that happened when 2 people were honest with each other across a folding table. Same time tomorrow, she said. You'll plan it. Absolutely. Should I be frightened? She tilted her head, her expression bright and warm and unbearably alive in the lobby light. Little bit, she said. And walked inside. He stood there for 30 seconds after the doors closed. Jay materialized at his shoulder. Boss. Don't. I wasn't going to say anything. Good. A pause. She's extraordinary, Jay said. Seo-jun said nothing. But he didn't disagree. He told her about Yuna. Not all of it. But more than he had told anyone. More than Chan-hyuk, who knew the facts but not the texture. More than the therapist he had seen for exactly 3 sessions before deciding that the cost of being known was too high. He told her because she asked, and the way she asked was different from everyone else. She didn't ask with the careful performance of wanting to understand. She just asked, directly, over coffee and keluele she had inexplicably sourced from a Ghanaian food vendor she had found in Mapo-gu and carried to the small park near his building in a brown paper bag. Did she know? Zuri asked. About the business? Yes. And? She hated it. A pause. She loved me anyway. She was always trying to separate the two, like she could keep loving one and refusing the other until I eventually followed the love over to her side. Was she right? Seo-jun looked at the coffee in his hands. I'll never know. She died before. He stopped. Before you found out which one would win, Zuri said. He looked at her. That's what you're really grieving, she said gently. Not just her. The version of yourself that might have chosen differently. The silence that followed was very, very full. You're not supposed to be that perceptive, he said. We met 3 days ago. I'm a fast reader, she said. People, mostly. She ate a piece of keluele. You've been punishing yourself. Running the empire harder, colder, more completely. Like if you commit to being exactly what she feared, it means you're not the man who might have changed. She tilted her head. But you are, though. That man is still in there. He came to a pojangmaka. He laughed at a street food stall. He told a naval officer she could pay for dinner. You insisted. You let me, she said. That's the point. He was quiet. The park was gentle around them. A small fountain, old trees, the muted sound of the city at a manageable distance. You're very sure of things, he said finally. No, she corrected. I'm very direct about the things I observe. Different skill set. I'm wrong all the time. I just say the wrong thing clearly instead of mumbling it, so it's more noticeable. He looked at her. Something warm and exasperated and helplessly fond moved across his face. Zuri. Seo-jun. I'm going to ask you something. Okay. Stay. One word. Quiet. Stripped of the usual authority he used to get what he wanted. Just a man, without armor, at a park bench, with a brown bag of keluele between them. She looked at him for a long moment. My commission, she said slowly. My grandmother. My country. My career. She held his gaze. I'm not a woman who disappears, Seo-jun. Not for anyone. I know. And he did. He had known from the minute she saluted him. She was not a woman who disappeared. She was not a woman who could be asked to. I'm not asking you to disappear. I'm asking you to, he stopped. Searched for the word. Return. Her expression shifted. Something quiet. To Seoul? She asked. To me. His voice was even, but unguarded in a way it almost never was. When you're ready. If you're willing. There is no timeline. There's no, he exhaled. I don't know how to ask for things without it sounding like an order. I'm aware of that. You're doing okay, she said softly. I just don't want 6 days to be the whole story, he said. The fountain moved. The trees held still. Zuri Asante looked at Kang Seo-jun, Mafia boss, building man, grief carrier, terrible Pojangmaka customer, and felt something shift in her chest with the specific weight of a decision being made somewhere below the rational level. Give me the rest of the trip, she said. 2 days. 2 days. She held out her hand. And we'll see. He looked at her hand. Took it. Not like a deal. Like something he was going to be careful with. That night, when she was back in her hotel room, she video called her grandmother. Grandma Rabina appeared on screen in her house dress, suspicious immediately. Why are you glowing? I'm not glowing. Zuri Amma. I raised you. That is a glow. Squinting. Who is he? Grandma. Is he Ghanaian? He is not. Is he at least? He is Korean, he is complicated, and he made me explain why fear and respect are different things over fish cake soup, and I may have told him about you and the sandals. A pause. Grandma Rabina looked at the screen for a long moment. Korean, she said. Yes. Another pause. Then, with the dignity of a woman who had survived colonialism, 6 children, and a government official crying in his car, does he treat you well? His learning, Zuri said. I'm teaching him. Grandma Rabina nodded slowly. Good, she said. That's how it should be. It came from nowhere. The way bad things always do. Zuri was in a morning summit session, half her attention on the maritime trade presentation, half on the memory of last night's walk along the Han, when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. A photo. Her and Seo-jun at the Pojangmaka. Her and Seo-jun at the park. Her and Seo-jun at the gala, her saluting, him already crossing the room. And then text. The woman the dragon mourned for 5 years has returned. The other families will find this very interesting. You should leave Seoul. For your safety. Her face went still in the way her face went still during threat assessments. She finished the session. She called Seo-jun from her hotel room. He picked up on the second ring. Zuri. Someone sent me photos of us. She kept her voice even. They know who you are, they called you something. The dragon. Silence. And then a quality of silence she hadn't heard from him before. Something that belonged entirely to the other part of his world. Where are you? My hotel room. Stay there. His voice was different now, not cold exactly, but precise. The way she went precise during operations. I'm sending. I don't need you to send anyone, she said firmly. I have training. I can assess a threat. I'm telling you so you're informed, not so you can dispatch people to babysit me. A pause. Someone is trying to use you to get to me, he said. I know. The danger is real. I know that too. Zuri. His voice cracked slightly at the edges. I need you to understand. Seo-jun. Her own voice gentled. Breathe. I am not in immediate danger. I am in a secured government hotel with security personnel in the lobby. I am a trained naval officer. I have my sidearm. She paused. What I need from you right now is information, not protection. Who sent this and why? A beat. Then, rival faction. They've been waiting for a weakness to surface. And I'm the weakness. You're the first thing I've visibly, he stopped. Cared about, she finished quietly. He didn't answer. Which was its own answer. She sat on the edge of her hotel bed and thought about this. The cost of being near someone like him. She'd known it abstractly. Now it was sitting in her hand in the form of photographs taken without her knowledge. I'm not running, she said. Zuri. I am not running. I don't run from threats. I address them. She paused. But I need you to be honest with me about how serious this is. He was quiet for 3 seconds. Come to my building, he said. Not because I'm overriding your capability. Because I need to see you and this conversation should not happen over a phone. She thought about it. Fine, she said. But I'm driving myself. How? You don't know the city. I will figure it out. That's what I do. She heard him exhale. I'll send a route, he said. Not a driver. A route. That's acceptable. She stood up, checked her weapon out of habit, and was halfway to the door when she stopped. Turned back. Called her grandmother. Not to worry her. Just to hear her voice for 30 seconds. You're fine. Grandma Rabina said immediately. Always, Zuri said. Good. Go handle your business. She hung up, smiled, and went to handle her business. The building's lower levels were something else entirely. She had suspected. She was not naive. But seeing it, the operations center, the quiet efficiency of people who moved with military precision and answered to one man, it settled the full reality of who Seo-jun was into her understanding. He met her at the elevator. Looked her over, a full, searching assessment. You're not hurt, he said. I told you I wasn't. I needed to see. She let him look. She understood it, the particular urgency of needing visual confirmation over data. She'd felt it herself on operations, that specific thing where information wasn't enough until you could put eyes on it. I'm okay, she said. Softer now. Just for him. Something in him released. Come, he said. They sat across from each other in his private office, real space, not the managed presentation of him she'd seen at the gala or even the softened version at the food stalls. This was his actual room. Dark wood. Maps. A single photograph on the desk face down that she noticed and said nothing about. He told her everything. The rival faction. The message. What they were likely to do next and why. The specific calculus of people who looked for vulnerabilities in their enemies and exploited them without hesitation. They'll back off when they realize you can't be used, he said. You're military. Diplomatic. Attacking you has consequences they don't want. How long? Days. Maybe less. My people are all ready. Are you going to tell me the next part? He looked at her. She looked back. Your people are already doing something, she said calmly. To address this. I don't need details I don't want. I'm asking, is it over? It will be by tomorrow morning. She nodded. Process that. You're not asking what I'm doing, he said. You're handling a threat to both of us, she said simply. I trust your capability in your domain the way I'd expect you to trust mine in mine. She tilted her head. I don't need to know how to run a ship's engine to trust the engineer. He looked at her for a long moment. You're remarkable, he said. I'm practical, she corrected. Don't romanticize competence. I'm romanticizing you, he said. She blinked. He had surprised her. She didn't let it show for long, but he caught it, and she saw that he was quietly pleased to have managed it. That's the most direct you've been, she said. You've been a very good teacher. She held his gaze. Something crackled between them, the specific energy of two people who had been circling something and were standing at the edge of it. Seo-jun, she said. Yes. Come here. He moved around the desk. She stood. They were 2 feet apart, then 1, then close enough that she could see the exact quality of the light in his eyes. He reached up, slowly, the way someone moves when they want to give the other person every opportunity to stop them, and tucked a loose braid behind her ear. His hand stayed, just barely, at the curve of her jaw. I have one more day in Seoul, she said quietly. I know. This is terrifying, she said. Yes, he agreed. I'm doing it anyway, she said. Me too, he said. And she kissed him. She woke up in his apartment. She lay there for 60 seconds cataloguing the situation the way she catalogued everything, methodically, without panic. The room, high-ceilinged, clean-lined, sparse in the way of someone who moved through spaces rather than inhabiting them. The light, early morning, grey-gold. The sound of the city below, muted by thick glass. The warmth beside her, still sleeping, which was such a profound violation of her understanding of Kang Seo-jun's entire personality that she had to actively manage her expression. He looked. She was not prepared for this. Peaceful. The precise, controlled face completely released in sleep. Just a man. A tired one. One who had, apparently, been carrying the weight of an empire and a grief and 5 years of deliberate coldness and needed someone who wasn't frightened of him to remind him how to put it down. She felt something enormous move through her chest. She got up quietly and went to find coffee. He woke to the smell of it. She was on his balcony, in his shirt, because of course she was, looking at Seoul in the morning with a mug in both hands and the particular stillness she'd shown him at the river on night one. He stood in the doorway. "You make good coffee," she said, without turning. "I have a machine that makes good coffee." "Still counts. You acquired the machine." She glanced over her shoulder. "Come see your city from the outside for a minute." He came. Stood beside her. The city was different in the morning, stripped of its nighttime drama, just structure and light and the distant movement of ordinary life. "What time is your flight?" he asked. 4 p.m. He didn't say anything. She didn't fill the silence. "I've been thinking," she said, after a while. About what you asked. Coming back." She turned to look at him directly. "I'm not going to promise anything I can't keep. I don't do that." "I know. My commission runs another 18 months. I have obligations. I have a life that is mine and I worked very hard for it and I'm not setting any of it on fire. I'm not asking you to. I know that too." She looked at him steadily. "But I'm also not willing to call this a beautiful memory and leave it here." She tilted her head. "So what I'm saying is, this is not a goodbye. It's a see you. With irregular timing and a long distance and the understanding that we're both people with entire lives. And the other part of my life," he said carefully. "The part that sent photographs to your phone." "I'm a naval officer," she said. "I operate around danger. I'm not asking you to give that part up. I'm not naive enough to think you can. I'm asking you to be honest with me. Always. About what I'm in." He looked at her. "Always," he said. "Not a concession. A promise." She held his gaze for a moment, then nodded once. "Okay," she said, and turned back to look at the city. He took her to the airport. The car was quiet most of the way, not uncomfortably. The kind of quiet that had developed its own texture between them over 6 days, the one that didn't need filling. At the terminal, she got out and turned. He stood with his hands in his pockets, more unguarded than she'd seen him in public. Jay and one other security member waited at a careful distance. 6 days, she said. 6 days, he agreed. That's an absurd amount of ground to cover in 6 days. You're very efficient, he said. She laughed. That laugh, the one that had been stopping him in his tracks since the gala, the one that was entirely hers and no one else's. She stepped forward, adjusted the collar of his jacket. It didn't need adjusting, which they both knew. He was completely still under her hands. Don't go back into the dark, she said quietly. What? The version of you that doesn't eat street food and doesn't laugh and exists purely as an authority object. She held his gaze. Don't let him back in. His boring. Something moved through his face that was almost painful in its openness. Zuri. Seo-jun. He reached up and held her hand where it was on his collar. For a moment, in an airport departure zone, in front of his security detail and 100 strangers, Kang Seo-jun held her hand against his chest and did not care who was watching. Come back, he said. I will, she said. She picked up her bag. Walked through the doors. Did not look back, because she knew if she did, she would make a decision that her career could not afford today. She cried a little on the plane. Just a little. Efficiently. Their long distance was conducted with the chaotic energy of two people who were completely incompatible in scheduling and completely unable to stop trying. They video called at hours that required at least one of them to be unreasonable. 3 a.m. Seoul was 10 p.m. Accra, which was manageable. The problem was that Zuri was often not in Accra. She was in the Gulf of Guinea, or Djibouti, or off the coast of Mozambique, in signal dead zones, surfacing to a backlog of messages from one Kang Seo-jun that ranged from a single photograph of a Pojangmaka fish cake with the caption I went back to a 2 a.m. voice note that was 8 minutes long and began with I found a Kaluele vendor in Itaewon and I thought you should know. She replied to all of them. She sent him Grandma Abina's recorded voice messages, which the old woman gave without prompting after Zuri mentioned him once. Grandma Abina's messages were entirely in Chi and featured at least one reference per message to sandals, which Zuri translated with creative liberty. She says you have a kind face, Zuri told him. She said 45 seconds of Chi. That was not all kind face. She also said your jawline is unreasonably strong for a person who has been through what you've been through and you should eat more. He looked at the camera. That's more like it, he said. She laughed. He came to Accra 4 months in. No announcement. Just a message. I'm in your time zone. Where's the best jollof rice in the city? She called him immediately. You're here. I told you I would visit. You said eventually. I'm impatient. Where's the jollof rice? She took 3 days of leave and showed him her city the way he had shown her Seoul. Not the official layer, the real one. The color and the noise and the food and the traffic that worked according to its own internal logic that was impenetrable to outsiders. He was terrible at the traffic. He was incredible at the food. He followed her grandmother around the compound for an entire afternoon after Grandma Abina decided, with the speed and certainty of a woman who made decisions like weather events, that she approved of him. He carried things. He listened. He answered questions in English while she answered in Chi and Zuri translated, except for the parts where both of them clearly understood each other perfectly and were simply choosing not to include her, which she found both suspicious and deeply good. She told you something, Zuri said to him that evening. She told me many things. Specifically. He was quiet for a moment. She said, and I'm translating, that you have been trying to be harder than you are since your mother died. That the Navy helped, but it also gave her somewhere else to put the armor. He looked at Zuri carefully. She said you deserve someone who makes the armor feel unnecessary. Zuri was very still. She told you that. She told me that is my job now, if I intend to continue. He tilted his head. She was not asking. It was an instruction. Of course it was. I accepted the terms. She looked at him for a long moment. You accepted the terms from my grandmother. She is a very persuasive woman. A pause. Also, she was holding a sandal. Zuri laughed so hard she had to sit down. 14 months in, she was promoted. Lieutenant Commander Zuri Asante. He sent flowers, an enormous, objectively excessive arrangement of Ghanaian garden roses and birds of paradise that arrived at the base and caused a 15-minute logistical situation while her colleagues tried to find a vase large enough. The card said, obviously, KS. She kept the card. At month 17, something shifted. She was 1 month from the end of her commission, the decision point she had been circling since Seoul, and she went quiet in a way Seo-jun recognized as different from operational silence. He called her directly. Talk to me, he said. I'm thinking. About re-enlisting. She was quiet. Zuri. The Navy is who I am, she said. It's not a job. She exhaled. It's part of my identity in a way that's very hard to explain to someone who hasn't. I'm not asking you to leave, he said. I know, but Seoul is. I'm not asking you to come to Seoul, he said. I'm asking you to tell me what you want. Not what works. Not what makes logistical sense. His voice was quiet and direct. What do you want? She was silent for a long time. I want both, she said. My career and you. And I don't know if that's possible, and it frightens me more than anything the Navy has ever put me in front of. Then let's figure out if it's possible, he said. Together. Like two people who are extremely stubborn and also apparently willing to conduct a video call relationship across 14 time zones for 18 months. She made a sound that was almost a laugh. When you put it that way. Re-enlist, he said. If that's what you want. I will work around it. I have been working around it. I am very good at it by now. A pause. I just need to know you're mine at the end of all of it. That's the only thing I need to know. She was quiet. I am, she said softly. I have been. Then we're fine, he said. Re-enlist. Be excellent. I'll be here. She re-enlisted. She was posted to the joint naval delegation in Seoul. She did not arrange it. She hadn't even flagged the posting preference. It had come through standard channels, assigned on the basis of her expertise and language skill development and the South Korea-Ghana maritime cooperation expansion. She stared at the orders for a full minute. Then she called Seo-jun. He picked up on the first ring. I know, he said. You know. The posting. Yes. She processed this. Seo-jun. I may have indicated to certain people that the Ghanaian-Korean maritime partnership would benefit from a specific caliber of officer. You arranged my posting. I arranged the opportunity, he said carefully. Your commanding officer made the decision. That is a very fine distinction. I thought you'd appreciate the fine distinction. I am so. She was trying to be outraged and it was not working correctly. You cannot manipulate military postings because you miss me. I didn't manipulate anything. I expressed a professional preference to a diplomatic contact. Completely above board. Kang Seo-jun. Lieutenant Commander Asante, he said, and the warmth in his voice was so complete and unguarded that it stopped her cold. Come home. She sat with that word. Home. She had not called anywhere home since Accra. Since Grandma Abina's compound and the sandals and the smell of morning in the courtyard. I'll be there in 3 weeks, she said. I know, he said. I counted. The welcome gala for the new joint delegation was held at the same venue. Same marble floors. Same warm light. Same carefully curated mix of diplomatic and other guests who hummed with the particular frequency of power. Zuri stood at the entrance with Commander Boateng, who had transferred to the delegation the previous year and had spent 12 months pretending not to know why she smiled at her phone the way she smiled at her phone. Same venue, he said. I noticed. He's already here. I know. She had felt it the moment she walked in, that same pressure, that specific weight of a particular pair of eyes. She squared her shoulders, tugged the hem of her uniform jacket. Lieutenant Commander's stripes now, gold and clean, catching the light. She walked in. He was standing at the same position, east wing, same railing, different glass in his hand. Same dark suit. Same still, deep eyes. Watching her cross the room. She stopped 2 feet from him. They looked at each other, 2 years, 18 months of video calls and voice notes and Keluele deliveries and Grandma Abina's chi instructions and one arranged posting and a promotion and a choice and 100,000 small intimacies that had constructed something solid between them in the space where grief had been. Zuri raised her hand. Slowly. Deliberately. The same way she had the first time. But this time she was smiling. She saluted him. He looked at her. And then Kang Seo-jun, feared, powerful, the man his enemies called the dragon and his soldiers were afraid to disappoint, raised an eyebrow, put down his glass, and said, with the quiet, complete certainty of a man who had arrived somewhere he'd been walking toward for 2 years. You're late. I am the posting, she said. I can't be late to myself. He laughed, full and warm and completely unbothered by who heard it, and pulled her in by the lapels of her jacket, and kissed her in front of 200 people like it was the most natural thing he had ever done. The room made several kinds of sounds. Chan-hyuk, from across the marble floor, pinched the bridge of his nose. Boateng slow-clapped. One diplomat began an entirely uninformed rumor that would circulate in 3 governments for months. Zuri kissed him back with both hands on his face and zero concern for any of it. When they separated, she said, quietly, against his jaw, I'm home. He held her face in his hands. You're home, he agreed. What she didn't know. What no one in that room knew. What Chan-hyuk had been holding for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment to tell the boss, was that the faction that had sent the photographs 18 months ago was not, in fact, gone. They had been waiting. Watching. And the woman they had tried to use as a weapon the first time was back in Seoul, in uniform, standing in the arms of the dragon. And they had decided. This time, she wasn't a vulnerability. She was a target. In his office, after the gala, while Zuri was laughing at something on Chan-hyuk's face, Seo-jun's private phone buzzed. Unknown number. 1 message. 1 photograph. Zuri. Arriving at Incheon. 3 weeks ago. Someone had been there. And below it. The dragon kept his dead woman's ghost. How sweet. Let's see if he can keep the real one. To be continued in part 2. Did that ending just destroy you? Good. Drop a comment right now. Are you team Zuri or team Seo-jun? Or are you team someone better protect this woman immediately? Subscribe so you don't miss part 2, because what's coming next will have you screaming. Share this with every single person you know who needs a story that hits this hard. See you in part 2.